Right, welcome everyone. And the next multi-network community sync today is September 3rd. Let me fix this one. We have some few items to discuss, so let's dig in. So first thing is based on our last discussion. I reached out to the network plan working group. Added myself to their agenda this Thursday, and I think the meetings are. Let me see. The meetings are. What time are they at? I think they are at 8:30 EDT. I think this is 6:30 our time PDT. So feel free to join and continue the discussion. I reached out on Slack to them as well. I haven't checked today yet whether I got any replies. No, I did not. So yeah, hopefully there will be folks showing up, and we can have some feedback from them or some engagements. And I think that's the only update I want to call out. I think next one we have OVN Kubernetes. I think we have Surya. Is that you or Lionel? You added that item.
Yeah, I added this item myself, and then I asked Surya from the community, Open Kubernetes community, to talk a bit about that and how this UDN was working, because I mentioned it in the last meeting, but maybe information were not 100% correct, and also to maybe align with CNI or potential implementation, some other implementations that are using similar kind of object as the pod network that we'd like to see or we would like to create in this community.
Yeah. So yeah, hi Surya. I'm not sure you have been following us in this community, and it definitely is something that we would want to eventually get to some sort of standardization, and we want to kind of reach out to all the communities that kind of think and build multi-networking in some form, one or the other way. Yeah, we want to go to talk with the Multus folks tomorrow, and then definitely our next goal was to reach out to the OVN community. I think here we just want to kind of talk with you if you want to add something to this, what's your thoughts, what's not, but definitely want to do same sort of like let's call it solicitation of this effort, or like this whatever do we have currently in the OVN community, right? That's definitely the goal. I think here we just want to talk with you and what do you think about this, and yeah.
Yeah, I did come here from her also because Lionel was asking to come and talk about the user. So we call our API as user-defined networks. We've been looking into multi-networking, and we were using network attachment definitions. But the fact that the spec is a blob of JSON, which is not a very good user experience, is what led us to doing a defined API of sorts. So I can try to maybe share a snippet. I'm trying to see if I can find the meeting notes. 1 second, so that I can put something there. Oh, no, not the, yep, but the notes. Okay, let's see. So yeah, I mean, for sure, firstly, to talk to what you were saying, Maciej, we definitely would like alignment and standardization in the upstream community first. One of the main reasons why we went ahead and did an opinionated API is because of time constraints, nothing else.
No, it's always the
yeah.
same. At Google, we did the same thing. Is because of that, but yeah. So yeah, I understand your feeling. Yeah, let me maybe do this.
Yeah. So basically, this is how our API kind of looks like, and we have different kinds of topologies to give flexibility to users. So it's the spec that is hard to agree on, right? Because in the community, we can, like, everybody has an opinionated way of thinking about networks. And so this is like, that's why I keep saying opinionated API, because all of us have different ways of picturing this. But I'm not
You
sure how
saw
the
my,
other people
like
will.
I got plenty of comments. Why do you have a definition of a network? I was like, because of that, because everyone has their opinion what a
Yeah.
network is, and yeah.
Yeah, and that's why I understand why NAD was never able to have a proper API in the spec, and it ended up being a blob to give that flexibility to everyone to put
Yeah.
whatever they wanted. But then now we know that's a bad user experience, and so we're hence trying to define a well-defined API to some standard at least. So yeah, so we went ahead with our main thing is the fact that we should be able to provide people with different kinds of topologies for what a pod network means. So we have three different kinds today. We have a layer 3, a layer 2, and something that we call a local net. So for the layer 3 and layer 2, it's very straightforward, like the terminology in the OSI model. For layer 3, we actually have a router in the middle for connecting pods between the nodes. For layer 2, it's a flat which all the pods are connected to.
So you can
And
ARP, I assume, an L2,
correct.
right?
Yeah, so you can just directly ARP and reach the other VMs. And usually it's the VMs end users who use the layer 2. Most of the others don't really, like, they just go with layer 3 if they don't know which one to use. So the default is usually layer 3. Or actually, there's no default. You have to specify everything in the spec. We made it very very intentional. So you have to set all the fields here. And I see some disturbance on the mic, but yeah. So in the layer 3 itself, then based on the topology, we actually have a config, which is how it is for the layer 3, the layer 2, and local net. So local net, I forgot to mention, is the type of network where you won't have a NAT. So usually in Kubernetes, the pod IP gets NATed to the node IP before it leaves the cluster. For local net type, there were requiremms where the VMs or the pods are directly connected to your provider network for the end user. So that's an unnatted topology. For layer 3 and layer 2, there will be natting using the node IP for north-south traffic. And for each of these topology types, we have a config. So what you see here is a layer 3 config. And then we have two types of networks. So each of the network can be either a secondary network or a primary network. The difference here is that a pod can have more than one interface. Obviously, everybody in the working group here knows this. So if you want your primary network of the pod to be a user-defined network, not the Kubernetes management network, then you set the role as primary. What this means is the default route of any pod in this network will be this network, not the network that Kubelet is using for health checks.
Right.
If you set it to secondary, then it's just like another Multis network where you get a secondary network, a secondary NIC on your workload, and it goes through that. But we made it very explicit for people to ask if they want a primary type network or a secondary type network. Both are user-defined networks. Primary use case is, again, isolation within the network. That was mainly why people were asking for it. And then we have the subnets field is again configurable, right? Like, so you get a host subnet slice if it's a layer 3, but if it's a layer 2, you'll only see one side of block, with the wide flat network. And for local net, you can also have IPAM disabled mode where the CNI will not do the IPAM. The provider can come and do their own IPAM with static IPs for VMs. And so we have much more advanced use cases with regards to request a specific IP for your VM, make sure that it's persistent for reboots and everything. So all tied to a network CIDR. And then we also have features we add on top of it, like advertising a network using BGP or some other protocol, etc. So we're building on top of this UDN construct, but hopefully that gives a sort of a picture behind what you were looking for. And yeah.
So funny things, because we came up with almost the same thing within Google. Our API is down somewhere there, and basically we just call it a type, and then you can have a layer 2 or L2 layer, and basically we have the IPAM piece is similar. I think the role, even named it, because I internally call it primary as well, the primary interface in the pod, because it's tricky to name it in some ways, but trying to solicit the primary interface, though. I think we want to keep the primary information on the pod spec rather than that's on the pod level, right? That's another thing. So not details, but so this is awesome, by the way, because we have at least this topology, this type or topology is something that's definitely common, at least within the two implementation that I know of.
Which is a good thing, right? Because then
Yeah,
that means people
exactly.
are thinking,
Awesome.
and it's not like we spoke, right? When we designed it, so it's
Yeah,
also
exactly,
nice that,
exactly.
yeah.
So this is awesome. And right now the pod network spec is complete blank state. There is nothing. It's as you saw the current pod network, and it's definitely open for any sort of additional fields we can think of, and we feel that yes, let's add that. Um, uh, I didn't push to it because like there were so many discussions, so many like options and approaches that okay, let's for now just keep it simple, right? Let's push something through. Let's have at least base. Let's have just the
Yeah.
handle. That was my goal, to have a centralized handle, and then we can build on top of that, right? We can add things. So right now we have the blank state, yeah, the unfortunate JSON type like
Right.
approach, right? We have the blob support in terms of the raw stuff, which is at least for the user visibility, it's not a JSON. You have to worry about your commas and what's not. You just have to worry about the kind of the spaces then.
Yeah.
But otherwise, I think this is what DRA does as well. So because I copied from them. Definitely, I would love to, because that was like one of the comments from Antonio saying that are we standardizing on anything in terms of the spec?
Right. I saw that comment on
Yeah.
the PR review. Yeah.
I don't know who wants. Everyone has that, and I said exactly what you said. Like everyone has their own definition of a network, and it's hard, right? And definitely, if we had few implementers coming in that would be willing to jump ship, so to say, to this, and we can push and define some sort of spec, I'm all for it, right? What could be our next steps here, Surya? Definitely from us, as I mentioned, I would love to
Standardize on something, right?
I would love to first, I think, though, because I'm not sure how much I would not want to discredit your whole community. I assume you have some sort of community sync about OVN. Is that true?
Yes.
Or
Yeah. We meet every other alternate Mondays.
so I would love to come in and do the SIG network presentation that I did. I'm not sure, would that be valuable?
I would think so for sure. Like I think that would be definitely valuable and I'm guessing what you're looking out of it is some kind of participation from the OVN Kubernetes community.
I would
helping
some
you,
feedback
or...
and definitely some participation would be lovely.
Yeah.
I want to address the comments to now, like we are proposing something here, but who's gonna implement, right? I think
Right.
last week we talked with Lionel, so we try to at least from Google side, we would definitely want to look at the CNI driver that he's building and see if that can become a reference implementation of sorts. That will be just like a CNI based. So basically, think of Multus kind of approach, but just via DRA. This is what I think. I don't want to put more words into Lionel idea, but kind of high level gist. But otherwise, we want to have some more in production implementation engagements. Let's say that projects, right?
Right.
Projects that are kind of out there, right? Is the user-defined network supported in KubeVirt? Do you know?
Yes.
Is that part of, okay? And that's how
Yes.
because I remember when I was looking at KubeVirt and multi-network, and that was like quite long ago. That was Multus was the only way to do it. Is that something recent you added, the user-defined network?
Yeah, that's true. Like, so user-defined networks was added in the past 1 year, let's say. So it's been like 6 to 8 months since we productized it. But definitely we work very closely with the KubeVirt community. So we have tested VM migration over user-defined networks, persistent IPs for VMs over user-defined networks with KubeVirt. So, we've we're in a good. We also have CI lanes in our upstream project to make sure that they are compatible and things like this.
And then I think another question, because you mentioned, is this at the backend support using Multus?
Yes, it is. So it's also so we still unfortunately support network attachment definitions because we have a lot of users who are still using NADs. So we can't just say that all of you now move here, and we're not providing a migration path. What we did is this again, the same spec is also our JSON blob in the NAD. So there are people using NADs in the field. What we have said is we will stop adding new features to NAD. We will completely only do UDNs. So today in our implementation, the way it works is that when you create a UDN, behind the scenes, a NAD is created. Our controller creates the NAD. So every UDN is mapped to a network attachment definition for implementation detail. And then it's the NADs that we watch in each of our node controllers to then program things in the data plane.
But can it work without Multus at all? Or Multus is the driver at the end anyway?
So yeah, unfortunately, given that it's Multus who's invoking OVN Kubernetes, at least in our product, we are using both. So Multus is there because we also have support for secondary CNIs, right? So we have not just OVN Kubernetes, but it might be you want to do
I see, because
VLAN
there is
or IP VLAN or something that you want to invoke in a chained fashion. So we have support for working of those projects together. But to answer your question, we actually want to go there. So we want to get rid of NADs. So no Multus and just UDN, right? We want to also do that. It's in our roadmap.
So basically, or having Multus move to this, to pod network.
or that, of course, or that. Yeah.
Okay. So basically, my effort here, going there and talking about this there, is not a waste. At least from this point of view, it's not like I'm duplicating things. I think this is where I was getting with this.
Yeah, not at all. Like I think one of the things that all the maintainers are agreed upon in OVN Kubernetes community is the fact that we want to not depend on the NAD in the implementation. At the end of the day, we do want to have Leona, you have your hand raised.
But if you don't rely on the NAD and Multus, how would you report, for example, the network interfaces that have been configured in the pod? Would it be like a solution from UDN itself, or?
I assume there is. I will let Surya go.
Yeah, we have also the same IPAM annotation on the pod. So just like Multus is reporting
it's
back.
Annotation based.
Yeah.
And you leverage the same as Multus, or you have something new, some new annotations, keys?
New annotation, different from the one that Multus has. So every pod's interface will be reported in the annotation. I mean, it's because Kubernetes itself is not network aware, right?
Yeah,
so we had to get around some of these things. But yeah, I mean, for the near future, at least, like, so if I drop my OVN Kubernetes hat and take my Red Hat hat, there is no way we just drop Multus and NADs because of this other secondary CNI implementation issue.
No, definitely. And to be honest, I think as the pod network stands, right, what I want to say, the object as it is, it can be replacing NAD. If you think about this, I'm not sure whether we want to go there, and that's a fair point of how we would, how that can happen, or what can be done with that. I will I'm going to talk on tomorrow on this one and see what the thoughts of that community is about this. And I'm not sure whether those are the same folks, Surya, or those are different folks. Like
those are slightly different folks. I don't go to the network plumbing working group meetings either. But at least it's good to definitely speak there. The approach we took in CNI is we didn't say we're going to do one for the other or anything. Like, yeah, we eventually for OVN Kubernetes, which is a separate project from Multus, we don't want to tie to Multus or the NATs, but we coexist. That's how we see it. Like, yeah, you can use UDNs. This is going to give you all the shiny new features. I'm sure it's the same with pod network. But those who are using NATs, we're not going to like tell them, unless we are providing people who are using them in production a path of migration, we can't really get rid of it. Like, it's two different APIs.
No,
So
that's
they have
fair.
to manually migrate things, and you can't avoid the disruption for the workloads when they move things. So given we're not going to solve that problem, we decided, okay, NATS maintenance mode. I mean, of course, people can come to the network plumbing working group and add new features, but for OVN Kubernetes in itself, we won't add user fields there, right?
All right. I think, and basically then you build functionality, I think, on top of OVN, the UDN. Is that true?
Yes. Yeah.
Meanings like services, network policies. You mentioned,
Right.
I think that was you asking about like the probes from Kubelet, all those things, right?
Right. Yeah. DNS and probes from Kubelet. We solved all of this in different ways, right? At the end of the day, we did our own opinionated way. So for network policies, since everything that is namespace scope API, we took an approach. So we have two versions of it. I think I need to step back. We have a user-defined network, which you see on the screen, which is namespace scoped. We have a cluster user-defined network, which is cluster scoped. So this is about connecting multiple namespaces together. I guess I didn't say that. So for us, a network is a namespace. So all the pods, so we don't go to pod selector level granularity, saying that a pod from a namespace A and a pod from namespace B can be part of, like, so when you create a UDN in a namespace, it means all your pods are getting attached to that network. And so if you are an admin and you want to connect multiple clusters, multiple namespaces as part of your same network, then you use the cluster user-defined networks, which is the exact same thing as the UDN, except it has a namespace selector instead of it being namespace scoped. So now with those, so it's like two CRDs. I don't know with pod network, are you going on, is it pod level? Like for every
it's cluster level. I basically, and I think this is the different approach, at least in that thinking. And this is because that's what I am. Nobody else kind of asked about this or questioned it, and that's why they never had such discussion. But I see what you did. Basically, network is belongs to a namespace. I think this was what we did is a network is a representation of an infra. You see that difference?
Yeah, of an infra, right? Like of the infrastructure company.
Of the infrastructure, right? So basically, I might have a VLAN 20 in my infrastructure. I'm going to represent that guy with the pod network. I think that was the initial kind of approach I took. I kind of been proposing. Everyone kind of back in the days when we were talking about it kind of agreed on that, and we kept with this. So basically what it means is because then I can as well represent the default network.
For us, default network is also like I totally get it. Yeah. So default network stays for us.
Yeah.
Sorry, let me let you finish. Yeah.
So basically, then we have default network representation, which is the today existing network, right? And then I know it's like default namespace, right? I treat it as a in not in terms of isolation, but in terms of like concept. Let's maybe say that, right? Because if I create a pod today and I did not specify in the namespace anything, I put it in the default namespace. Now that I would like to have the networks being treated that same way, right? I didn't define any network. Okay, I'm gonna connect you to the default. So backward compatibility, the same thing. What you think, what you did, right? And then if you want to connect to additional networks, you do that. And basically, then the default network is not namespaced, right? You don't have to specify default network everywhere to ensure that they have connectivity.
Same for us.
Right? Right. But I'm applying the same concept to every network.
I see. Yeah.
And
for us, go ahead.
And no, go ahead now. I think.
And that actually makes sense when you say that the pod network is representing the infrastructure. So just like our default network, which we say is a cluster-wide pod network, you're just replicating that for every pod interface in some sense. And the way for us, it was more, we came from a separate angle, which is tenancy. So tenancy was our primary use case. And in Kubernetes, I know we don't officially define tenancy, but most of the users use a tenant as a namespace or more than one namespace as part of a tenant. And almost always you want that tenant to have their workloads grouped together in that network. And if you want to connect with another tenant, it's a connect across networks. That's the concept that we went with. So that's why the main network UDN is a namespace per namespace thing. And then as an admin, you can connect multiple networks together as part of the CUDN. And then that we didn't go with the whole, and the default network, like, coming to that also, we still have all of our pods connected to the default network. The only thing is it's just there, it's an infra network. But if the pod is having a primary network as the UDN, that's the only network through which you can have your primary traffic go through. Only reason why the default network is existing is for Kubelet to continue its health checks. Otherwise, when we implemented it, we would have health checks breaking. So we have access control lists on that interface, except Kubelet. Nobody else can reach those pods in these user-defined networks to preserve isolation. And DNS was the other issue, which is also kind of, we use core DNS, but we only support it for things like cluster IP. So, and then coming to your original question around network policies, cluster services, since all of these are namespace scoped, now you can see why it's easier for us. So a service, which is part of this namespace, which is say Blue Network, will be accessible only by pods in that network. A cluster IP service, I mean. So even services have isolation. A network policy is the same. The scope is within all the pods attached to that network. So all the Kubernetes APIs, we implemented it like that. And then now if you connect these networks, so if you have a blue and a green and a red and you put them together, yeah, then all their services will be reachable, all their network policies will be reachable. And then we also are coming up with user-defined network connect, which is an explicit way of partial connectivity or full connectivity across multiple networks.
So I see you're going towards more networking constructs in Kubernetes. I think there's something that, yeah, definitely we want to represent the network, but I think because you're going to the stage where I want to create a router object or a
exactly.
I see something that I think this was pushed back on by some of the folks back in the early days of this community, where now we want to go and create a full kind of OpenStack like Neutron, objects, right? It has exactly that, right? So this is something that that was kind of I take that feedback as one of the pointers, and was saying, okay, so maybe let's just put that outside. Someone can build that, of course, if they want to, right? But as a core, let's keep it simple, right? Let's keep it
makes total sense. Yeah.
Let's keep it simple. Let's have just a network representation. If you want to build more on top of it, go ahead and do that, right? I think the concepts here are slightly different to what what we do at least at Google, right? That's something that we need to kind of iron out how we do that, right? That the concept of cluster-wide object versus namespace is that, and I think from our point of view, we decided that within the cluster, all the networks by default, not by default, by implementation, this is what we did at Google, are isolated. So within the cluster, network A cannot connect or talk to network B by default. That was the main thing that we do, because network's supposed to be kind of as infrastructure and isolation within the cluster. If you have two networks and outside of the cluster, you said, I can route them somewhere because I created a route between VLAN 1 and VLAN 2, VLAN A and B. You're good to do that. What's going to happen is network A going to reach out to its default gateway and try to reach out to network B. But it's as if it connects to another cluster, right? Even if the pods might be residing next to each other on the same node, you have to go out and come back, right? Because basically by default, we in the cluster decided that. And because of that, you see how then the how we put the serviceability on top of it, it's then slightly different, right? Because I agree with network policies, it gets more complex a bit because now we have to identify do you want to apply network policy for the whole pod or just for a specific network? Right now, you have that granularity, and for services, is just basically because we want to kind of follow the model of the default network and just multiply that, right? When you think about this is what default network does, right? So
yeah,
default
so I'm guessing you
network
have a service sider per network.
Yes, and
Yeah,
there's that.
makes total sense.
Herb is having that. Same for pod sider and all those. This goes per network, and then everything kind of aligns to that, right? If I want to reach out to a service, load balancer type service to another network, and you have to have routing enabled for that to that network, and then you go out and come back, right? Same as if you were to reach out to a pod. That's kind of the idea, at least. And this is, by the way, this is Google's implementation of this. Something that we eventually, right now, it's all in house. This is something that we definitely would want to eventually go to Cilium and work out with them on, because whatever we did is on top of Cilium, so we want to go to there. But this is just, as I said, this will be another implementation to what you're doing, and that's why, like, the design doesn't specify all those things. I'm just kind of explaining on what we did and where we are, right? Like what our approach is, and we need to now, the pod network has to be one that can support both, right? I don't think any one of us should succeed on whatever they do. It fits your business models and vice versa for us. So the goal would be to can we make the pod network work for both, so that it fits in both worlds, right? So that the serviceability then can be done like with the common elements in a common way, so that the APIs are the same. And rather than going through some annotations on services, we will have a endpoint selector in gateway API, because at least this is what we are thinking to use instead of service. And then you just create all the gateway stuff and what's not to kind of pipe through your multi-network. I'm not sure you saw that gap
you had linked to me. Yeah, I haven't read it totally, but yeah, I remember
so, because that's where then we can kind of commonalize on the APIs of how the services can be done. And the kind of main point of using gateways, because services is so overloaded and there's so many features and it's so complex. With gateway, you can go more flexible, and this multi-networking effort, can be the driving force behind that gateway API. But this is kind of long term, and I think the end result for both, all the implementation, is to have a unified API and move away from annotation as much as we can, right?
Yeah, huge.
That's I think is the key. I'm not sure whether that's something that would be in line for you, Surya, as well. But then, would be
yeah, for sure. And also, if it helps, we should also pull in the maybe Calico folks to know if they have some similar version. So what I've seen the other CNIs do, like KubeOVN, which is another one, and Calico, they all went with a subnet, like an IP pool or a subnet as a representation. I wouldn't call it a network. They have a slightly different concept. It's just a logical subnet. And then from the subnet, they have this VPC sort of a construct, which is a set of subnets connected together and things like this. So it's just that the names are different, but each of them have done something slightly different for multi-networking. So we could rope in Cilium, Calico into it if that helps with coming up with,
definitely. Thanks for the hint on the Calico. Definitely, probably then I was initially thinking of OVN, and because those are like OVN is all in GitHub open source. Is that true?
It is. Yeah, we're complete open source, and we are very, very happy to collaborate and work on this. Like Maciej, so whatever you said, I think makes a lot of sense, and we can try to also pitch in to see how to standardize it. And
so that's the word. That's so. Let me pitch this with the presentation that is SIG networking to the OVN community, and see what the rest of the kind of your community thinks about this. And
Yeah.
I think from there we can work on what sort of collaboration we want to do. We can do another series of discussion over the API itself. On this meeting, I would not want to take the OVN part, but definitely before that, I want to gather all the interested parties that would like to look at this, so that we have more inputs. Right now we have 2, and I'm happy about just that. I think we had folks from Calico before, but I think that was Calico that were from Cisco. I think Cisco, that's ACI.
It was not from Cisco working on Calico VPP.
Yeah, exactly, those folks. That's what I had in mind, but I think they lost interest or something, and maybe. Okay. Anything else to add, Surya?
No, I think we are good. And thank you, Maciej, for reaching out. Thank you, Lionel, also for.
Yeah, thanks, Lionel,
reaching
for facilitating this. One last thing, Surya, can you link here details to your meetings, or I think
out.
scheduling
Yes. Yeah.
so
Let
that
me.
I can start and reaching out and basically add myself as an agenda item for next or future upcoming OVN
Meetings.
meeting.
Yeah. Let me do that now. So, or I forget.
Anyone else has questions about OVN? Thank you. All right, let's move on. So, Lionel, you owe us issues.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm quite busy now, and I promised to create the issue, which I still promise I will do it. But next
Still
time I
missing,
will do a
okay.
demo. I tried.
Oh, the end. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
I tried 1.34, but it was on the release the second release candidate, I think, and it was working with the KEP 5075. But I still need to write a ticket, as I said, to
All right.
let people
So
work on this. It's something in my backlog, but I'm really sorry I didn't have time.
no, that's fine. That's fine. So what I would like to then talk, because something you mentioned, and I think we got internally we were some feedback on this. What is, because I assume this project would stop only at piping, what I mean, or do you think of building future like services on top of it?
I mean, if you have the network that can support this behind like the CNI itself, then yeah, for sure. That was the primary idea. I mean, that's my main use case is the service. So that's why I implemented the status and being able to get the IPs from the SCADA interfaces.
It was a bit leading question. I apologize, but I think what I'm getting at with this is how then we would do the mapping of what the service is on. I think this is what is your idea, because
like what network it is on.
And the pod network would be that linking element.
Your question is your question was on which network the service is running on.
How would you identify that?
I have a solution which is a POC, as I said last week in the SIG network, that I would like to demo at some point. I was working on this project for a long time. It was based on different secondary network project before called Network Service Mesh, and then I moved it to Mortus, and I'd like to demo it. But it's a phase POC, and this particular part that you're mentioning is maybe the trickiest part to understand for the user, and it's the part that I would like to simplify and discuss, because I mean, there is a solution, but it's not the best. It's like
okay, and that's fine.
It's multi-space. Multi-space is like you say, okay, the network, you should select the IPs that belongs to this subnet with this NAT that has been added and with this interface name. But I hope this can be simplified.
because where I'm getting at this, last week we talked about the optionality of this project working without pod network and with. I think this was your main kind of concern, right?
Yeah.
So if this would work without pod network, would your goal be to support the services at that point as well without pod network? Or you see my point, right? Because this kind of questions the existence of the pod network object, right? If you can do the serviceability without pod network, why we even need it? I think that's where the question came, and that was the question.
I mean, I don't think I would work on this because it's not so good for the user experience in that. I mean, it's possible, but it's not something that I would like to share with the user because it's very hard to configure and it's hard to use.
So
pod network, yeah.
So where I would like to kind of ask you then, could we say that just in bare bones of this implementation, it would support just the connectivity and piping, right? And then if you want to build,
I mean, at the beginning for sure, that's the main goal at the beginning.
But then if you would want to enable, if we were to enable additional feature like the Kubernetes constructs, right? Like the Kubernetes primitives, you would have to use the pod network. And this is the hat that I would like to sneak in there.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that would be the best, I think.
You see, because then okay, you can create and use this without pod network. But if you want to have all the Kubernetes features, bells and whistles, what's not like other stuff, you would have to use the pod network for that, right? Of course, considering what you just called out, right? This is just a CNI driver, so considering we can have a means to somehow enable this serviceability for those additional interfaces through, I don't know, maybe some modified kubeproxy or I don't know, some maybe BPF programs doing that. We can see what's viable, but that kind of approach. So basically, this is where I would say that, and correct me, and that's okay with you, that okay, it can work without pod network, but it can only achieve these basic Multus capabilities. To get more capabilities, you would have to use pod network.
But I mean, I could demo with Multus and without the pod network and explain why. I mean, it's
definitely will be yeah. Let me maybe do.
I mean, this will be a demo based on Multus. I could move it to using the CNIDA driver, but it will take a bit more time in that case if this is required.
Let me just add that. I think this is if you could in some ways demo the what I would like. If you could demo the what you have in mind or what does it mean, I think this will just I think this is where I see you added yourself as an next item here. That's thanks for that. That would be good. So I think from our side, we'd like to know in terms of this, like the issues here. Keep in mind that if you create them, then we can somehow chip in, or unless you have something that we can start reviewing or helping on this, definitely something that we can help. If you have something,
I would love this. Just I got very busy recently.
No, that's perfectly fine. All right, I think at least from our side, what do you think if we were to, unless you want to do that? Because definitely a good next step that I can think of is write some sort of a design of how this project would work or interact with pod network. What would that mean? We can put it on a paper, cool. And basically it's something that we can like I don't think you have to be writing this. Someone else can pick it up. Is that okay? Is that one of the issues we can think of that can be worked on?
Yes, absolutely. This can be absolutely be done. Sorry, there's some other topic. Yeah, I completely forgot about the CNID rebuffer because I was talking to Tang from IBM Research, who wants to help on this. And then there was this idea that the user should not. I mean, it's an issue also that I should create, but I don't know if it's a bug or it's a missing feature in the area. Is that if you have the config in the device class and you apply it to I mean, and you use the device class in one of the requests, then in the status of the request, the configuration is set from the device class, but it doesn't say to which request it should apply to. It's a bit hard to explain it like this, but you create a request in your resource claim. So the request contains a device class, and the device class contains a configuration.
It doesn't apply to all of them? Is that not the case?
The strange things that I observed when I developed it this last week, it was that the device class configuration doesn't say to which request it should apply to. So
shouldn't it apply to all? I would imagine it's a blind. Yeah.
If you have two requests, one for a GPU and another one for the interface, then the network interface will have this config from the device class, but to which requests it should apply? Why would it apply to the GPU? That's
a fair point, but I forgot these.
I don't know if you.
I know what you mean.
I don't know if you tried this.
I have not.
I don't know if you tried it in the. No, okay.
I'm trying to find an example of the object. Do I have one? Oh, here.
At some point, we were talking that using the device class and contain the network configuration.
So this is config for the driver, right? For one of the drivers. Even this, like if you think about, so config, OPEC, and request, this is in the same, right? And then there's another item. And then you're talking about this one, right? This is where the class is, right? But then the request is per device class. So it's a list, right? Is that not
right? But if let's say you have two elements in this list, you have this network interface device class, and the other is GPU, for example. Then
right, but then this will have a different. Why would I have the GPU one? Let's say this is GPU 0. Why would that one use the same class?
No, it's not the same class. The device class is different. It's a GPU.
Okay.
So now you have a GPU class. The configuration from the device class and that are requested will go in the status of the resource claim when it will be created. When the resource.
But you will have two separate statuses, right? Won't that be the case? Isn't status per request?
Yes, but the configuration doesn't say to which request it belongs.
This configuration?
The configuration that comes from the device class. So the device class can contain a configuration.
Right, but it will apply to the one that it's aligned to, right? So if I have a configuration...
but the status doesn't say that. It doesn't say, okay, this config does belong to this request.
Okay. So there is some gap in the APIs from the array. I have not. I think this is something that have this been discussed, something that probably can be brought up with the DRA folks, right?
Yeah, I just wanted to check with you before because I remember that you had some idea with the device class to use it as pod network or something like that. I don't remember, but maybe you had tried it.
Not this far, no. But basically, right now I don't see. So you have a config, like at least for this part, right? You have a config and matching it to a specific request. This is the matching.
Yeah, and this works fine. Yes. Yeah.
So this within a claim, what you're saying is you can do the same thing in the class, and then the class doesn't specify which request it applies to. And I assume that because the linkage between the devices lists is the name of the request, right? To which request it goes to.
Right.
And I think
this Spark works well.
Yeah, I see. Okay, I think that's something that's no, I have not looked at it that level. No.
Okay.
Sorry. Even then, I think here we can. Yeah. I have not looked at that. No.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's a fair point. Probably they have to be brought up with the DRA folks and see maybe there's a gap in the API, or maybe we are missing something. Okay.
That's it's something that I will create an issue on in the CNI driver, because Peng had this idea that the CNI config should not be in the resource claim itself, but maybe in the device class instead. But it's something that needs to be discussed.
And this is where I was as well alluding towards I think pod network, right? Last time we talked, it's because if I have a configuration on terms, if I want to kind of match one-to-one with Multus, right? The NAD object is a common one, right? That basically, so we could kind of match it either to the class or a template, right? Probably, but then you still need a per pod configuration, i.e., I want to have a static IP, or I want to have a specific name for the interface. Right. This should be per pod configuration. So I would use a resource claim specifically if I don't want to have a generic one. I can always go with the generic one, right? But the problem here with template doesn't work because template doesn't allow you to link to a claim and all that, right? So template stops working at that point, right? To add some additional, more specific configuration to your CNI configuration, right? Think of exactly those, like for this pod, the interface shall be named net1, right? Or net2, something. So you cannot put in a template because template that changes for everyone, right? So class is the place where you would put your generic stuff, this is IPVLAN, and the parent for the IPVLAN will be interface of the node X, and then I expect my driver to properly list those out and apply right correctly. But then the claim either just specifies the class directly and it's just that, or it's then additionally can specify some additional config saying, oh, use that class for IPVLAN, but then additionally the interface shall be named something, or it will be the default primary interface, or that kind of things, right?
Right. And I think Peng had some good ideas around this kind of topic. So it's
because this is
with the issue it will clarify this.
Yeah. And I assume when you looked at the class of the config of the class, this is where the gap was. Basically, this is where it came from, I assume.
Yeah.
All right. All right. We are almost at the time. Any other inputs? Other comments? Tomorrow, as I mentioned, the 6:30, I'm going to, hopefully I won't sleep over. I shouldn't be 6:30, should be good. Gonna present this, basically the standard presentation of this guy here at the meeting and see what they say. See what can be done there. And I think maybe they can just join the CNIT array driver, Lionel.
Yeah, that would be nice. But yeah, thanks for joining this meeting and presenting this. But I will not be able to join tomorrow, but I will be.
That's fine. Yeah. So anyone wants to kind of chip in or listen in, please join and see. I think I'm not sure whether they record those or not, but let's see. All right, folks. See you in 2 weeks or tomorrow in this meeting, and I will let you know as well on the. Maybe I will chat up as well on our Slack that about the Multus meeting tomorrow. All right. Thanks everyone. See you in 2 weeks. Yeah. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.